The cold darkness of space stretched in every direction, endless and silent, broken only by the faint glimmer of faraway stars. The patrol ship Sentinel moved slowly through the quiet star sector, its engines humming low. The crew had grown used to the silence here. This was a forgotten corner of the galaxy, far from trade routes, far from battles, a place where nothing unusual ever happened. Ensign Darrow sat at the scanner station, half bored, his eyes following the same blinking lines he had watched 100 times before. He sipped his drink and thought about the long shift ahead. Then something appeared on his screen. A faint blip where there should have been nothing. He frowned and tapped the controls. The blip was still there, slowly moving. "Lieutenant, you should see this," Darrow called. His voice had a trace of unease. Lieutenant Merrick walked over, his boots thudding softly on the deck. "Probably a cargo hauler off course," he said without much interest. But when he leaned over to check the screen, his eyes narrowed. "That's no cargo hauler," he muttered. The reading showed a ship larger than any freighter, dense in structure, with power levels far too high. The engines were quiet, almost as if the ship was drifting. But its course was steady. Merrick called for the captain, and moments later, Captain Velron stepped onto the bridge, tall, sharp-eyed, and calm. "Report," she ordered. Merrick gestured to the screen. Unidentified vessel, entering the sector. From deep space, no transponder, no ID code. Moving at low speed but with massive power reserves. Velron studied the readings. Her face gave nothing away. "Send a standard greeting signal. Let's see who answers." Darrow sent the signal. His finger tapped the button once, twice, 3 times. Nothing came back. The silence on the comms felt heavier than the silence of space itself. "Maybe their system is down," one of the crew offered. Velron shook her head. "No, they can hear us. They just don't want to answer." As the strange ship came closer, more details appeared on the scans. The hull was long and sleek, armored in dark metal that reflected almost no light. Along its sides were weapon mounts, heavy, military grade, far beyond anything an ordinary vessel would carry. The bridge. Crew exchanged uneasy glances, and whispers started. Darrow caught a few words. "Could be pirates." "No, pirates don't have ships like that." "Then what is it?" Velron's voice cut through the tension. "Zoom in on the markings." The image on the screen sharpened. And there, near the prow of the ship, was a symbol. A silver eagle with spread wings, clutching lightning bolts. It was old, faded, but unmistakable. Darrow's mouth went dry. He had seen that symbol only in history archives. "Captain," he whispered, "that's human." The room went still. Everyone knew the old stories. Humans had fought the Empire in the Terran Wars centuries ago. When they were defeated, their fleets were destroyed, their colonies erased. The survivors were said to have been scattered, forbidden from building warships again. And yet here, in this quiet sector, a human battleship was gliding toward them, as if time had never passed. "Run a cross-check," Velron ordered. Her voice was calm but sharper now. "Model, design, anything that matches." The computer worked for a long moment, then displayed a result. Class designation, Valkyrie. Human sovereign ship, Terran War era. The bridge lights seemed colder. The crew stared at the name on the screen. "Impossible," Merrick said under his breath. Every Valkyrie class was destroyed. Velron turned to the comms officer. "Send an alert to High Command Priority 1. The comms officer's hands trembled as he typed. The message sped off into the void, carrying the words "no one in." The Empire had expected to hear again. The battleship continued its slow approach, as if it had all the time in the world. Its weapons were silent, its shields unreadable. It was like a predator moving with quiet certainty, knowing its prey could not escape. On the outer hull of the Sentinel, the distant shape of the battleship grew larger. No engine roar, no bright trail of heat, only a steady, silent glide. The crew could feel it. Even without looking at the screens, the air on the bridge seemed heavier. A soft alarm began to beep. "They've adjusted course," Darrow reported, his voice cracked slightly. "They're heading directly toward us." Velrun stood still, her eyes fixed on the black silhouette filling the main display. "Maintain position. Do not engage," she ordered. The battleship slowed as it neared, coming to a halt only a few thousand kilometers away, close enough for their scanners to see every dent, every mark of battle on its ancient hull. Without warning, the comms console lit up. An incoming transmission. "Put it through," Velrun said. The screen flickered, but no image appeared. Only a deep, calm voice spoke, the words slow and deliberate. "This sector is now under the protection of the human sovereign navy. All Imperial ships are to leave immediately." The crew froze. No one spoke. The voice continued, "You have been warned." Then the connection cut, leaving only silence. The battleship did not move, did not power its weapons. It simply waited. On the bridge of the Sentinel, Captain Velrun felt a cold weight in her chest. She knew the Empire would not retreat. And she knew the humans must know that too. That meant the battleship was ready for what came next. She turned to Merrick, her voice low but firm. "Get every ship in range on high alert. This is no ordinary contact." Darrow kept his eyes on the scanner, watching the massive shape holding its position in the darkness. The old human emblem gleamed faintly on its hull, a ghost from a war that should have been long forgotten. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he wondered why it was here, why now, and what it wanted, but a deeper part of him already knew, and that thought made his hands shake. The battleship's lights flickered once, like the blink of an eye, and Darrow's stomach tightened. Captain Velrun looked at the screen one last time before speaking the words that would travel through every Imperial channel in the sector. "Send word to High Command," she said, her voice steady but cold. "It's a battleship. Panic. Moved faster than light. The moment Captain Velrun's message reached High Command, alarms began to echo through the deep halls of the Imperial Military Center. Officers ran through corridors, their boots striking the polished floors like gunfire. Holographic maps lit up across the war room, showing the quiet sector where the strange ship had appeared. But now the marker was flashing red, warning of a high-level threat. On the streets of the capital world, rumors began to spread. In small market stalls and busy transport hubs, people whispered, "A human ship." They said the words like they were cursed. Some laughed nervously, saying it was only a ghost story. Others swore they had seen classified reports from the old Terran wars, stories of human ships that fought like demons and never surrendered. Inside the Emperor's private council chamber, the air was heavy. The Emperor sat on a raised seat carved from black stone, his long coat shimmering under the golden light. Around him stood his advisors, military commanders, ministers, and intelligence officers. All of them looked tense. Admiral Torsen, an old man with scars across his face, slammed his fist on the table. "We cannot allow this to stand," he growled. "Humans are forbidden from building warships. We must destroy it before more arrive." A young minister shook her head. "We don't know their purpose. Maybe they have come to negotiate. Attacking them could start another war." The Emperor raised his hand, silencing them. His voice was calm but cold. "Do not forget who the humans are. They are clever, dangerous, and patient. If they are here now, it is for a reason. Find out what that reason is, but prepare the fleets." Across the galaxy, in small military outposts, the same orders were repeated. Mobilize, prepare, and expect the unexpected. Docked warships roared to life, their engines glowing as crews hurried aboard. In training academies, cadets were told to ready for deployment. Some were excited for their first mission, not realizing what they would face. On a remote listening station orbiting a barren moon, two operators watched as dozens of encrypted messages pulsed through the CUM network. One of them leaned back and whispered, "It's spreading fast, the whole Empire's on edge." The other simply stared at the empty space beyond the viewport. "I heard old stories," he said softly, "about what humans do to their enemies." Meanwhile, the Valkyrie drifted in the quiet sector, The ship did not move forward, nor did it retreat. It simply held its position like a lion lying in tall grass, watching, waiting. Its dark metal hull seemed to drink in the starlight, and the faded silver eagle emblem caught only the faintest glow. Inside the battleship, the human crew moved with precision. No one rushed, no one panicked. Captain Rena Hawley stood at the center of the command deck, tall, dark-haired, with eyes that missed nothing. Around her, officers monitored scanners and adjusted controls. Imperial response? She asked. Her first officer replied, "They're pulling ships from neighboring sectors. Looks like they're building a blockade around the capital." Holly gave a small, cold smile. "Good. That will save us the trouble of finding them." In the Empire's capital, news channels began to broadcast the event. Official reports called it a security incident, but unofficial sources claimed it was far more. One brave reporter said on live broadcast, "The ship is believed to be of human origin. If true, this could mark the first direct contact between humans and the Empire in centuries." The feed cut off seconds later, replaced with government statements urging calm. But there was no calm in the Imperial Navy headquarters. Admiral Torsen stared at the incoming data from the Valkyrie. Every reading looked wrong. The ship's energy levels were off the charts, but no known reactor matched its signature. Its weapons systems seemed to shift configurations at random, as if adapting for different kinds of targets. An intelligence officer entered the room carrying a small data chip. "Sir, we found something," she said, sliding the chip into the table's display unit. A grainy image appeared. The Valkyrie, during the last days of the Terran Wars. It had been declared destroyed in a final battle near the Black Rift. Yet here it was, intact and more advanced than before. Torsen clenched his jaw. If they've rebuilt this one, there could be others. In the lower decks of the capital's civilian districts, the story took on new life. Street vendors sold cheap holo pictures of the ghost battleship. Children repeated the tale in playgrounds, and in the smoky backrooms of old spacer bars. Veterans who had fought humans in their youth sat silently, their eyes distant, remembering the terrible discipline and cunning of human fleets. Emperor's intelligence chief, Lady Saren, stood alone in her office. Reading an old classified file, the report was written in faded ink, describing a relic taken from a human colony long ago, something the Empire had kept hidden deep within the palace vault. She tapped the page with a finger, a thought forming. But she kept it to herself for now. Back in the quiet sector, the Valkyrie came to life again. Engines glowing faintly, it shifted position just enough to face the direction of the Imperial capital. Captain Hawley stood with her hands behind her back. "Set course," she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes held fire. The Imperial patrol ship Sentinel still shadowed them from a safe distance. Captain Velron watched the battleship move and felt her stomach twist. She sent another urgent message to High Command, this time with a single line. "They are coming." Far away, in the grand halls of the Imperial Palace, the Emperor listened to that report in silence. Then he said to his guards, "Double the watch on the vault." The Valkyrie's engines brightened. The stars stretched into lines as it jumped into faster-than-light travel, heading straight toward the heart of the Empire, in the listening post on the barren moon. The operator who had feared the old stories watched the signal disappear from his board. He leaned back in his chair, his voice barely a whisper. "It's starting," and across the galaxy, the Empire held its breath, knowing that whatever was coming would change everything. The Imperial Navy called it a warship, but the old records called it by a different name, HSS Valkyrie, in the deepest chambers of the Imperial Archive. Dust covered the files that spoke of it. These files were not digital, but printed on old sheets, locked in metal drawers. Only a handful of people in the Empire even knew they existed. Admiral Torsen stood before one such drawer, the metal cold. Under his hand, he slid it open and pulled out the thick folder. Inside were faded photographs, battle reports, and ship schematics. Each one told the same story, a ship designed for one purpose, to end wars quickly and completely. During the Terran Wars, the Valkyrie had been feared by every Imperial fleet commander. Records told of how it slipped behind enemy lines, destroying supply ships and command centers before the fleet even knew it was there. The Empire had thrown everything at it, and still it had escaped again and again, until the final battle at the Black Rift, where it was supposedly destroyed, now centuries later. It had returned, and it was no longer just a relic. The latest scans showed it had been rebuilt, upgraded with weapons and technology that did not match any known human design. Torson's aide, a young lieutenant, leaned over his shoulder. "Sir, this data shows power readings beyond even our capital-class ships. We can't match it." Torson closed the folder and looked at him with cold eyes. "Then we will have to outthink it." Far from the capital in the darkness of space, the Valkyrie moved like a shadow. Its hull was scarred from old battles, but every scar seemed to have been reinforced with strange black alloy. New weapon ports lined the sides, smooth and seamless, as if part of the hull itself. Not even Imperial intelligence could identify the material. Inside the command deck, Captain Rena Halle studied the star chart glowing before her. Her first officer, Commander Voss, stepped up. "We are 3 jumps away from the capital," he reported. Halle nodded slowly. "And the blockade?" "Building fast," Voss replied. "They're pulling ships from all sectors. The Emperor must be terrified." A faint smile touched her lips. "Good. Fear will make them act in predictable ways." In the crew quarters below, sailors and marines of the Valkyrie prepared their gear. Weapons were checked, armor plates locked into place. The crew did not talk much. They didn't need to. Every one of them knew why they were here, and every one of them knew the stories of what the Empire had done to their ancestors. Back in the capital, Lady Siren, the Emperor's intelligence chief, paced her private office. She had pieced together fragments of old reports, and one name kept appearing: the Sovereign Key, the relic locked away in the palace vault. She knew, with a sinking feeling, that this was what the humans wanted. The problem was, the Emperor would never give it up. To him, it was both a weapon and a trophy. A reminder of his family's victory over Earth. In a low-orbit shipyard, massive Imperial warships were arming for battle. Engineers rushed to load missile bays. Shields were tested to maximum capacity, and long-range artillery cannons were aligned toward the stars. The mood among the crews was tense, not because they feared battle, but because they had no idea what they were facing. A young gunner on one of the blockade ships asked his captain, "Sir, is it true that this ship fought in the old war?" The captain did not look at him. "It's true," he said quietly. "And if half of what I've heard is real, pray we never have to face it head on." The Valkyrie did not hide. It moved through open space, as if daring the Empire to strike first. Every time an Imperial scout ship tried to get closer for better scans, the Valkyrie would vanish from their sensors, only to reappear in the exact same position a few minutes later. It was as if the ship itself was playing with them. On the Sentinel, Captain Velrin received a direct transmission from the Valkyrie. The voice of Captain Halle came through, calm and precise. "To the Imperial Navy ship Sentinel, you are in violation of Earth's sovereign borders. Withdraw at once." Velrin stared at the com officer. "Borders? This is Imperial territory," the voice returned, sharper this time. "Not anymore." Then the channel closed. The battleship remained still, its weapons powered down. But the message was clear. It did not recognize the Empire's authority here. At high command, the Emperor's council argued late into the night. Some urged immediate attack, others advised caution. Admiral Torson stood at the head of the table. "If we attack without knowing its full capabilities, we risk losing the entire blockade," he warned. "We must draw it out, force it to reveal what it can do." The Emperor leaned forward, his gaze icy. "Or we crush it before it reaches the capital." Meanwhile, in deep space, the Valkyrie adjusted its heading slightly. Commander Voss looked to Captain Halle. "They'll be waiting for us," he said. Hale's eyes stayed on the star chart. "I'm counting on it." she replied. The more ships they bring, the fewer will be left to guard what we've come for. In the crew mess hall, 2 Marines sat in silence, one cleaning his rifle, the other staring at the wall. Finally, one spoke. You think they'll give it back? The other shook his head. Empires don't give back what they steal. Above them, in the command deck, the stars shifted as the Valkyrie's engines began to hum. The ship's hull lit with faint blue lines that pulsed like veins energy. Readings spiked far beyond Imperial predictions. In the Imperial listening stations, alarms began to scream. Technicians scrambled to interpret the data. One message went straight to the Emperor. The human ship is on the move, heading straight for the capital. The Emperor read it without expression, then simply said, "Let them come." The Valkyrie vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving only the empty silence of the sector behind. But for those who had seen it, the image of its dark shape, the silver eagle on its prow, and the steady confidence of its approach would not leave their minds. Somewhere, deep inside the Imperial Palace, the sovereign key waited in its vault, cold and untouched for centuries. The humans were coming for. And nothing in the galaxy seemed capable of stopping them. The jump from deep space to the heart of the Empire took only seconds for the Valkyrie, but for those waiting in the capital sector, it felt like an eternity. On the outer rim of the capital system, hundreds of Imperial warships floated in precise formation. Each ship's engines glowed bright, their weapons armed and ready. In the command ship Imperial Dawn, Admiral Torsen stood at the main viewport, his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes scanned the black void, searching for the first sign of the enemy. "They'll appear soon," said his tactical officer, her voice tense. "They'll appear when they choose," Torsen replied, and not a moment before. Across the fleet, crews held their breath. In the gunnery decks, fingers hovered over firing triggers. Shield operators watched their energy readouts like hawks. Even the most experienced veterans felt a knot in their stomachs. Then, without warning, the Valkyrie emerged. It didn't come in fast. It didn't crash into the sector like a raging beast. Instead, it slid out of faster-than-light travel with the calm precision of a predator. Its dark hull glistened faintly, its ancient human emblem catching the faint starlight. No one fired, not yet, from the bridge of the Imperial Dawn. The Valkyrie looked small compared to the vast blockade. But the readings on the tactical displays told a different story. The ship's power signature was climbing steadily. "Open a channel," Torsen ordered. A moment later, the view screen flickered to life. Captain Rena Hawley appeared, tall, straight-backed, her uniform plain but immaculate. Her voice was calm, her eyes sharp. "This is Captain Rena Hall of the human sovereign ship Valkyrie. You are holding stolen property. Return it at once." Torsen's expression didn't change. "You are in Imperial space. You have no claim here." Hale's voice never rose. "The claim is older than your empire, Admiral. You have something that belongs to Earth. Return it, and we leave." "You'll forgive me," Torsen said, "if I don't trust the word of a ghost ship." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Then you'll see what happens when you ignore a warning." The channel cut. The Valkyrie held its position. Torsen didn't move. "Hold fire," he ordered. "I want to see what she does first." Inside the Valkyrie's command deck, Commander Vos watched the Imperial blockade on his console. "They're not moving, Captain. They're waiting for us to make the first mistake," Hawley said. "Let's give them something to think about." She gave a hand signal, and a crew member tapped a control. The Valkyrie's shields shimmered faintly, then disappeared entirely. For a moment, it looked defenseless. On the Imperial ships, confusion rippled through the ranks. "Sir, their shields are down," the tactical officer on the Imperial Dawn reported. Torsen frowned. "It's a trick, don't fire," and it was a trick. The Valkyrie wasn't unshielded. It had shifted to a different kind of defense, invisible to Imperial scanners. But the effect was clear. It was bait. Hawley gave her next order. "Signal them." A narrow beam transmission shot across the void. It was in an ancient human dialect, one no modern Imperial translator could fully understand. On the Imperial dawn, the cum officer scrambled to decode it. The only clear part was a single phrase: "This is your last chance." That was when the Valkyrie moved, not forward, not toward the blockade, but straight up, accelerating so fast that the Imperial sensors briefly lost it. Then it reappeared above the blockade line, its weapons charging, but instead of firing on the capital or the main fleet, it targeted the long-range sensor satellites orbiting the system. One by one, the satellites exploded into shards of molten metal. Torsen slammed his fist on the console. "They're blinding us," he shouted. "All ships, spread formation." The Imperial fleet broke apart, trying to cover the gaps. But the Valkyrie was already gone again, jumping short distances, appearing for only seconds at a time before vanishing. On the command deck of the Valkyrie, Hal's voice was steady. "We're not here to destroy their fleet, not yet. Just remind them we can." Back on the Imperial dawn, the tactical display lit up with red warnings. Dozens of ships reported brief, untraceable contact with the Valkyrie, a flicker of movement here, a sensor ghost there. The crew felt hunted. Then, as suddenly as it had started, the movement stopped. The Valkyrie was once again in front of the fleet, motionless. Torsen's jaw tightened. "She's toying with us," the cum officer called out. "Admiral, incoming message, direct to you." The screen flickered. Hale's face returned. Her tone was almost polite. "Admiral, you've seen what I can do without firing a single shot. Do not make me fire one." Torsen said nothing. His eyes locked with hers, searching for any sign of bluff. He saw none. In the Imperial Palace, the Emperor watched the live feed with his advisors. "She is stalling," Lady Saren said. "She's buying time for something." The Emperor's gaze turned cold. "Then we find out what it is." Far above the capital, in a shadowed corner of the system, a small cloaked craft detached from the Valkyrie, invisible to Imperial eyes. It moved silently toward the capital world, carrying a small team of humans armed with weapons that had not been seen in the Empire for centuries. On the Valkyrie, Holly watched her display as the team disappeared from sensors. Voss glanced at her. "They'll be inside the palace before he even knows." Holly nodded. "And when they have it, we leave." But the Empire was not blind to everything. Deep in the security towers of the capital, a single alert flashed on a hidden console. "Unauthorized atmospheric entry detected." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Seal the palace," he ordered, out in space. The Valkyrie's engines flared, drawing every eye back to it. Hale's voice came over an open channel to the entire fleet. "Earth is patient, but our patience is ending." And then the ship powered its main weapon, a massive barrel along, its spine glowing with blue light. The Imperial crews braced for the shot, but no shot came. The weapon's glow faded, leaving the fleet unsure whether it had been a warning or the start of something far worse. The Valkyrie hung in space like a silent shadow. But in the heart of the Imperial Palace, something far older than the battleship sat in a vault of solid neutron steel. The room was lit by a single pale beam. From the ceiling, the walls were smooth and seamless. The floor polished like a mirror. At the center, on a raised pedestal, rested a black metal object no larger than a human skull. Its surface was carved with strange geometric lines that shifted slightly when you looked at them too long. It had been here for centuries, brought back from a dead human colony during the last days of the Terran Wars. To most in the Empire, it was just a trophy, a reminder of victory. But to those who knew its true name, it was the sovereign key. Few in the Empire understood its purpose, but human records, those that survived, spoke of it as a command device. A way to awaken something called the Aegis Fleet, a vast network of automated warships hidden far beyond known space. The Emperor stood in front of the vault's thick security doors, watching as his personal guard captain scanned his palm, and iris, metal bolts the size of a man's arm slid back into the wall. The doors hissed open, revealing the relic, Lady Saren stepped forward, her eyes locked on it. "If this is what they're after, then we must move it," she said. "The Emperor's." Voice was low and steady. "Move it where?" "There is no safer place in the galaxy than here." Saren didn't argue, but she could feel unease growing in her chest. She knew the Valkyrie's captain was not here for diplomacy, and she knew that if humans wanted something badly enough, they would stop at nothing. Meanwhile, in the skies above the capital, the small cloaked craft from the Valkyrie slid silently through the planet's upper atmosphere. The black hull absorbed radar pulses, its engines muffled by advanced dampeners. Inside, 6 human operatives sat strapped into narrow seats, their faces hidden by dark visors. Their leader, a man named Callan Reese, checked his wrist display. "We land in the old merchant quarter," he said quietly. "From there, we go underground. The palace vault is 2 levels below the throne room." No one asked how they would get past security. They already knew the answer: stealth, precision, and the kind of speed the Empire was not used to facing. Back in orbit, Admiral Torsen studied the fleet formations. The Valkyrie still hadn't moved, but every instinct told him it was not idle. "Keep all ships on alert," he ordered. "They're planning something on the Valkyrie's bridge." Captain Halle stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the blockade through the view screen. Commander Voss leaned toward her. "The ground team is in the atmosphere." "Good," Halle said. "Hold position. Make them think we're here to talk." Inside the capital city, Callan's team moved quickly through narrow streets and shadowed alleys. The merchant quarter was alive with noise, sellers shouting, ships coming and going. But in the chaos, the humans vanished into the crowd. Their black armor looked like thick leather coats, their weapons hidden beneath. They reached an old maintenance lift that descended into the city's underlevels. The air below was damp and smelled of rust. Echoing tunnels stretched in all directions, lit by dim, flickering lamps. Callan led them through without hesitation. "Vault access is ahead," he said, checking his wrist map. But as they turned the corner, the sound of boots filled the tunnel. Imperial security troopers, armored and armed, emerged from the shadows. Their leader raised a hand. "Stop right there." Callan didn't stop. His sidearm came up in one smooth motion. A flash of light filled the tunnel. The first trooper fell. The others reacted instantly. Blaster fire ripping through the dark. The fight was quick and brutal. The humans moved like ghosts, striking from shadows, dodging return fire. In less than a minute, the last trooper was down. One of Callan's team, a woman named Kira, checked a fallen soldier's cum unit. "They didn't have time to send an alert," she said. "Good," Callan replied. "Move." In the palace above, Lady Saren felt a chill. Her private terminal flashed with a faint warning, a system she had placed long ago to detect certain patterns of movement inside the city. "They're here," she whispered. She didn't tell the Emperor immediately. Instead, she sent a coded message to a small elite squad stationed inside the vault level. Back in the tunnels, Callan's team reached a sealed bulkhead door. Kira knelt beside it, attaching a small device. Lines of green light ran across its surface, scanning the lock's internal systems. "This is Imperial tech," she said, "but old. I can crack it in 2 minutes." "You have one," Callan replied. Kira's hands moved quickly. The device beeped once, and the door slid open with a heavy groan. Beyond it, a long corridor led toward the vault access chamber. Up in orbit, the Valkyrie shifted slightly. Imperial sensors tracked the movement instantly. "Admiral, they're moving," the tactical officer reported. "No," Torsen said slowly. "They're distracting us on the Valkyrie's bridge." Hale's eyes narrowed. "They've noticed Vus. Time to cover our team." The battleship's forward cannons powered up. Energy spikes lit across its hull. Alarms blared across the Imperial fleet. "Weapons lock detected," shouted an officer. On the Imperial Dawn, Torsen's voice boomed. "Shields up. Prepare for evasive maneuvers." The Valkyrie fired, not at the capital, not at the blockade's main line, but at a cluster of unmanned defense platforms. The explosions filled space with blinding flashes, forcing several blockade ships to reposition. In the chaos, the cloaked craft's landing site was erased from the fleet's tracking systems. In the vault chamber below the palace, Callan's team finally stepped into the pale light. The sovereign key sat on its pedestal, glowing faintly. The air felt charged, almost alive. Kira's voice was a whisper. "It's real." Callan stepped forward, but before his hand could touch it, the inner doors slammed shut. A squad of elite Imperial guards entered, weapons raised. In that frozen second, both sides knew this would be a fight to the death, and high above, in the cold vacuum of space, the Valkyrie's engines roared, ready to unleash its full fury. If the humans below failed to return, the Imperial capital had never seen a fleet this large in its skies. From orbit down to the upper atmosphere, warships floated in layer upon layer of formation. Their armored hulls caught the light of the system's sun, casting long shadows over the planet below. The people in the streets stared upward, seeing the shapes of battlecruisers and destroyers like giant predators circling above in the command center of the Imperial dawn. Admiral Torsen studied the latest sensor data. The Valkyrie was still there, holding position far enough to avoid close-range engagement, but close enough to strike at any moment. Its power readings were steady. Too steady, as if it were conserving its strength for one decisive blow. "They're waiting for something," Torsen said quietly to his tactical officer. "Or someone," she replied, glancing at the secure channel feed that had been silent since the humans entered the capital's underlevels. Far below, in the palace vault, Callan Reese and his team stood locked in a deadly standoff with the Emperor's elite guards. The sovereign key still sat on its pedestal between them, glowing faintly like a sleeping star. The guards moved first, stepping forward in perfect formation, blasters aimed. Their leader barked an order, "Drop your weapons." Callan's visor reflected their raised guns. "Not today," he said. The first shot came from Kira's rifle, bright and sharp in the pale light. A guard dropped instantly. The rest opened fire. Blaster bolts lit the vault chamber in harsh flashes. Humans rolled behind the pillars, returning fire with deadly accuracy. The fight was close, fast and brutal. Sparks flew from the walls as rounds slammed into the reinforced steel. In orbit, the Valkyrie's sensors picked up the spike in energy. From the palace below, Commander Vos looked to Captain Halle. "The team's engaged." Halle didn't hesitate. "Begin Phase 2. The battleship's main engines roared to life. The sudden acceleration made Imperial sensors scream with alerts. Ships scrambled to adjust formation, thinking the Valkyrie was charging the blockade. Admiral Torsen's voice thundered through the fleet's comms. "Hold the line. Do not let it through." But the Valkyrie didn't head for the main ships. Instead, it angled toward the planetary defense platforms. Its spinal cannon glowed bright blue, and a beam of pure energy tore through the first platform in a single shot. The explosion lit space like a miniature sun. Panic rippled through the fleet as the Valkyrie weaved between defense lines, firing with surgical precision. Every destroyed platform opened a gap in the planet's protective net. Inside the palace, Callan's team pressed forward, cutting through. The last of the guards, Kira, rushed to the pedestal, her gloves brushing against the strange surface of the sovereign key. The lines on the object shifted as if recognizing her touch. "Got it," she said, lifting it free. The room seemed to grow colder. "Move." Callan barked, tossing a flash charge behind them. The chamber filled with white light as they sprinted toward the extraction route. Back in orbit, Imperial ships moved to intercept the Valkyrie, but the battleship's movements were impossibly fast. It turned hard, engines flaring, and vanished in a short-range jump, reappearing behind the pursuing ships. Torsen slammed a fist on the console. "They're pulling us away from the capital." And it was working. Every kilometer the fleet moved gave the ground team more time to escape. Callan's voice came over the secure com to Halle. "Package secured. heading to Point Bravo. Understood, Holly replied. We'll meet you there. But the Empire wasn't done. In the capital's lower airspace, a squadron of interceptor craft roared the extraction point, their engines screaming. The cloaked human shuttle was still invisible to radar, but heat signatures from its engine trail gave away its path. On the shuttle's controls, the pilot cursed. They've got a fix on us. Keep moving, Callan said, pressing the sovereign key into a secured crate. We only need 30 more seconds. 30 seconds was a lifetime in a chase. The interceptors dropped low, weaving between the towers of the city, plasma bolts slicing the air around the shuttle. The pilot threw the craft into a tight spiral, skimming so close to a high spire that its wings almost clipped the metal. In orbit, the Valkyrie saw the danger. Holly gave the order. Cover fire. One of the battleship's hidden belly cannons deployed, firing a rapid burst of blue plasma into the planet's upper atmosphere. The bolts weren't aimed at the interceptors directly, but at the air currents around them. The sudden shockwave sent the pursuing craft spinning off course. The human shuttle broke free into open sky, engines blazing as it climbed toward the edge of the atmosphere in the Imperial Palace. The Emperor watched the live tactical map. His voice was low but venomous. If they escape with it, the Empire's hold over the outer systems will break. Lady Saren, standing beside him, didn't look away from the display. Then perhaps we should have never taken it. Her words earned a glare, but no reply. The shuttle cleared the atmosphere, streaking toward the Valkyrie's position. Imperial frigates moved to cut it off, but the battleship opened fire again, each shot precise and devastating. In seconds, the path was clear. The shuttle docked, with the Valkyrie's underside, magnetic clamps locking it in place, on the command deck. Captain Holly turned toward Voss. Prepare to leave the system. The Ftulu. Voss asked. Not yet, Holly said, her voice quiet but firm. First, we show them what they almost lost. The Valkyrie rotated, its weapons locking on the nearest remaining defense platform. One final shot tore it apart, sending shards of molten metal raining into the atmosphere. The message was clear. The battleship could destroy the capital itself if it wished. Admiral Torson's voice came over the fleet's wide channel. Stand down. All ships stand down. His tone was filled with reluctant defeat. The Valkyrie didn't answer. Its engines flared, and with a deep rumble that seemed to vibrate through the void, it jumped into faster-than-light travel, vanishing from Imperial space. In the quiet that followed, the Emperor's throne room was like ice. His hands gripped the armrests tightly. Find them, he ordered, and find it, but far away in the safety of deep space. The Valkyrie's crew stood around the sovereign key. The object pulsed faintly, as if waking from a long sleep. Hale's voice broke the silence. Now the real war begins. The Valkyrie drifted in the shadow of a dying star, its engines low, its hull dark. To the untrained eye, it looked like a wreck waiting to be claimed by time. But inside, the ship pulsed with quiet purpose. In the war room, the sovereign key sat in the center of the table. Its black surface glowed with faint silver lines that shifted and moved like veins under skin. Every time someone looked too closely, they swore the lines changed into patterns, symbols, or maps, then shifted again before they could be understood. Captain Rena Holly stood with her hands on the table, staring at it. Around her, the senior officers waited in silence. The hum of the Valkyrie systems was the only sound. It's active, Commander Voss finally said, his voice low. Whatever power it's been holding for centuries. It's waking up, Holly nodded. The Empire knew what this was. That's why they hid it instead of destroying it. Chief Engineer Mara leaned forward, her eyes scanning a datapad. The readings are strange. It's not just a command device, it's a signal core. It's broadcasting at a range we've never used before. To who? Voss asked. Not who, Mara said. What? The words hung in the air. Hale's gaze didn't leave the key. The Aegis fleet, she said. The name sounded heavy, like it carried the weight of an old oath. The room fell silent again. The Aegis fleet was legend even among humans, a vast armada of AI-controlled warships built during the height of Earth's military power. Ships that never needed sleep, never feared battle, and never questioned orders. It was said they vanished. Before the Terran Wars ended, hidden away in some forgotten sector. If this thing calls them back, Vos said slowly, the balance of power in the galaxy changes overnight. Hale's voice was calm but firm. Not changes. Ends. The Empire will not survive them. Far away, in the Imperial Palace, the Emperor stood in the dim light of his private chamber, listening as Lady Saren delivered her report. They escaped into uncharted space, she said, and they have the sovereign key. The Emperor's hands tightened on the rail of the balcony. Then we will burn every uncharted sector until it is found. Saren hesitated. And if they wake what it controls? The Emperor turned to her, his eyes cold. Then we will destroy it too, just as we destroyed the humans before. But deep down, he knew this was not like the First War. This was something worse, something older. On the Valkyrie, the crew gathered in the main bay. Holly stood before them, the sovereign key in her hands. Her voice carried across the steel walls. For centuries, they took from us our worlds, our history, our freedom. This, she lifted the key slightly, is the proof they could never destroy all of us. And now, it will help us take back what we lost. A murmur went through the crowd. The crew were soldiers, pilots, engineers, but more than that. They were the descendants of survivors. They had grown up on scattered colonies, in hiding, always told that the Empire's grip was unbreakable. Now they saw a crack in the armor. Holly continued, the Aegis fleet will answer this call. But when it does, the Empire will come with everything it has. We are the first strike. We will not be the last. The crew answered with a low, steady chant, for Earth. For Earth. For Earth. Meanwhile, the key's glow brightened. A faint vibration passed through the deck. In the engineering bay, Mara stared at her instruments. Captain, it's sending coordinates. Holly stepped to the console. The star map expanded, showing a point far beyond any charted system. The coordinates shimmered like a beacon. That's where we're going, she said. But the signal did not travel unnoticed. In the capital's high-orbit command station, Imperial codebreakers froze as an unfamiliar pulse swept through their long-range sensors. It was faint, but the pattern was too precise to be random, Admiral. Tarson was summoned immediately. It's them, the chief analyst said. And they're calling something. Tarson's expression hardened. Alert all sectors. Send every long-range hunter we have. The hunt began. The Valkyrie's journey to the coordinates took them past abandoned mining colonies and dead worlds. Each jump through faster-than-light space felt like moving deeper into forgotten history. On the third day, the signal grew stronger. The keys low filled the war room, and the air seemed charged. Mara whispered, we're close. Then, they saw it. A world of black oceans and jagged landmasses, lit by the pale light of a dying sun. In orbit above it hung shapes, massive, silent and unmoving. The Aegis fleet, hundreds of ships, larger than the Valkyrie. Their hulls smooth and without markings. Weapons slumbered in their armored shells, waiting for a command. Voss breathed out slowly. They've been here all this time. Holly stepped forward, the sovereign key in her hands, not sleeping. Waiting. She placed the key into a console slot designed centuries ago for that exact shape. The moment it connected, a deep hum filled the Valkyrie. Outside, the first of the Aegis ships lit up, its engines glowing with cold blue fire. In the Imperial Palace, alarms screamed. The long-range sensors had picked up the activation. The Emperor stared at the display in disbelief. No, this cannot be real. Lady Saren looked at him with the faintest trace of something in her eyes. Not fear, but satisfaction. In the dark space above the black ocean world, the Aegis fleet began to move. Their formation shifted like a single living thing, turning toward the stars where the Empire waited. On the Valkyrie's bridge, Hala gave the order, "Form up with them, we're going home." And far behind them, in the heart of the Empire, the first ripples of panic began to spread. They had stolen from humanity once. Now humanity was coming to take it all back. The Black Ocean world was no longer silent. Where once it had been a graveyard of still machines, it now burned with the cold blue light of the awakening Aegis fleet. Ship after ship powered up, their engines humming in a deep, steady rhythm. The light spread from vessel to vessel like a wave across the darkness, until the sky above the planet shimmered with the glow of hundreds of warships. On the bridge of the Valkyrie, Captain Rina Hale watched the display. The Aegis fleet moved in perfect unison, their shapes cutting against the pale light of the dying sun. It was like watching an army of titans take their first steps after centuries of slumber. Commander Voss stood beside her, his voice quiet. "I've never seen anything like it." "You were never meant to," Holly replied. "No one alive has." In the center of the command deck, the sovereign key rested in its console slot. The silver lines on its surface pulsed in time with the fleet's movements. As each pulse grew stronger, more Aegis ships came online, their shields shimmering into existence. "Fleet count?" Hale asked. Mara from engineering checked her readouts. 312 ships fully powered. Another 60 still warming up. "This is beyond anything we've ever had." Voss allowed himself a small grin. "The Empire has no idea what's coming," but far away, in the Imperial Palace, the Emperor was already preparing. The War Council chamber was filled with holograms of fleet commanders from every sector. Their voices overlapped, each giving reports on mobilization. "They're moving toward Imperial space," said one commander. "Massive fleet signatures, unknown design, but the readings are off the scale." Admiral Torson's image flickered into view. "It's the Aegis fleet, I've confirmed it. The humans have awakened them." A hush fell over the chamber. The Emperor's voice broke it, slow and sharp. "Then we will remind them who owns the galaxy." But the fear was already there, silent in every commander's eyes, back in the black ocean system. Hala gave her orders. "Set formation, Valkyrie at point. Aegis fleet in defensive wedge." We moved toward the jump coordinates. The massive ships aligned, their movements flawless, even without human crews. The Aegis vessels reacted like extensions of the Valkyrie itself. The key's link gave them a shared mind, a single purpose. As they began their approach to faster-than-light speed, a faint transmission cut through the static, human vessel. "This is the Imperial destroyer Iron Fang. You are ordered to stand down and surrender your fleet." Voss smirked. "One destroyer? They're testing us." Hale's reply was simple, "Open channel." When her voice went out across space, it was calm and steady. "This is Captain Rina Hale of the human sovereign ship Valkyrie. We are coming home. Stand in our way, and you will not stand at all." She closed the channel before the destroyer could respond. Moments later, the Aegis fleet engaged its drives, and the stars stretched into lines. They emerged in the outer edge of Imperial space, and the welcome was immediate. A wall of Imperial warships, hundreds strong, their weapons already locked. On the bridge of the Iron Fang, the Imperial captain stared at the incoming fleet. His tactical officer whispered, "Sir, they outnumber us." "Not just outnumber," the captain replied. "They outweigh, outgun, and outthink." In the Valkyrie, Hale raised her hand. "Fire one warning volley." The Aegis fleet responded instantly. A ripple of blue energy surged from their cannons, arcing harmlessly above the Imperial ships, but passing close enough to rattle every hull. It was not a shot to kill. It was a shot to show they could. The Imperial line wavered. Several ships broke formation, retreating into deeper space. Voss shook his head. "They've never faced anything like this. They're already breaking." "Good," Hale said. "Let them carry the story back to the capital." But not all ran. A cluster of Imperial heavy cruisers surged forward, weapons blazing. The Aegis fleet shifted instantly, their shields absorbing the fire before returning a devastating barrage. 3 cruisers were destroyed in seconds, their remains drifting in burning silence. "Path is clear," Mara reported. "We can punch straight through to the capital." "Do it," Hale ordered, as the fleet cut through Imperial space. The news traveled faster than the ships themselves. Every garrison, every station, every civilian world heard the same message: the humans are back. And they are not hiding in the Imperial Palace. The Emperor stood at his balcony, watching the sky where faint flashes from distant battles lit the upper atmosphere. Lady Saren stepped beside him. "They'll be here soon." His jaw tightened. "Then we meet them." The final jump brought the Aegis fleet into the capital system. The once proud Imperial defense ring was already weakened from the Valkyrie's earlier attack. Now it faced the full strength of humanity's lost armada. Hale's voice filled the fleet channel. "This is where it ends for Earth, for every world they took from us. Advance." The battle began like a storm. Imperial ships fought hard. But the Aegis fleet's coordination was perfect. Every strike was met with a counterstrike. Every gap in the line filled before the enemy could exploit it. The Valkyrie itself tore through 2 destroyers, its spinal cannon cutting them in half with surgical precision. On the palace balcony, the Emperor watched his fleets crumble. The sound of the battle, distant but growing, was carried through the air like distant thunder. And then the sky went silent, one by one. The surviving Imperial ships powered down their weapons, drifting away from the battlefield. The Aegis fleet hung above the capital like an iron crown. The Valkyrie broke formation and descended into the atmosphere. Its dark shape passed over the palace before hovering directly above it. Hale's voice echoed across the entire planet. Broadcast on every channel, "The Empire's rule is over. The age of Earth begins again. Choose your side." Her words rolled through the streets, the homes, the markets. Some people fell to their knees in shock. Others shouted in defiance or joy. In the throne room, the Emperor sat motionless. Lady Saren watching him closely. "It's done," she said. Not as a question but as a truth. Above, the Aegis fleet spread out, their shadows covering the capital. The message was clear to every world in the galaxy. Humanity had returned, and they would never be forgotten again. The Valkyrie rose back into the sky, the sovereign key still glowing in its console. Hale's voice carried one final order to her crew. "We're not conquerors, we're liberators. Next target, the outer systems." The engines flared and the fleet turned toward the stars, leaving the capital behind with the knowledge that the war was far from over. It had only just begun.